Your air conditioner stopped working, and you've turned to the internet looking for answers. Well, in today's video, we'll show you how we spent about 20 minutes of our time, $20, and very little knowledge of air conditioning, and got our almost 20-year-old air conditioner back on its legs again, cooling down the house. Inside most air conditioning units, you'll find a capacitor, which you see circled here. In this case, a dual-run capacitor. And these are one of the pieces of equipment that fail most often. According to HomeAdvisor.com, you're going to spend anywhere between $100 and $400 to have a professional replace a capacitor. Compared to doing it for about $20, you can see there's great cost savings if you're really willing to endure the risk. One disclaimer before we dive in, this video will not be going into air conditioning theory or how to diagnose issues. This really is just the simple procedures to go about replacing the capacitor in your air conditioning system. To prepare the area for a safe working environment, you need to disconnect the power from your air conditioning system. And you do that by coming to the wall of your home and finding these disconnects. So the one on the right is for the old unit, the one on the left is for the new unit, and what you do is you swing open these doors, and inside there is a little pull handle that you pull out, and as it comes out it disconnects current running from the home's electricity system to the air conditioner that you're going to be working on. And by doing this, you'll be providing yourself with a safe working environment as you work on the capacitor and some of the other wiring in the unit. Now there are some rare cases where this is pulled out and the unit still has electricity in the area where you're going to be working. So we'll be talking about some measures to safeguard yourself so you don't get shocked. With each unit you have these wires coming down, going into the unit, and typically where they enter into the body of the unit, there's a compartment. In this case, in the train unit, it's right here. If you were to unbolt this and take this panel off, you'd have access to the capacitor, and I've already gone ahead and done that by taking this piece off. With my particular situation, I found two things that look like they could potentially be a capacitor. Ultimately, I read the label of both and realized that the silver one on the left is the actual capacitor. Once you've located the capacitor, go ahead and take a picture of it with your phone and head back into the house. Make sure you get a good picture of the label and all the writing. The next step is reviewing the picture that you took of the capacitor and looking at the information on the label so you can order a replacement. There's two ways to go about doing this. One is locating the model number for the specific unit and then finding an exact replacement. This is a great option, but it also could be a little bit more costly. The other option is to find a compatible similar unit, maybe from a different brand, which is what I ended up doing, and I was able to save some extra money by finding certain specifications on the old unit and then making sure that the new unit had those same ones, and we'll walk through that in this next portion of the video. The simplest route for ordering a replacement unit is to find the model number. In this particular case, I was able to do that by typing in the brand of the capacitor, which is Mars, and then just typing some of the different numbers that I found on the label. I eventually found that when I typed in Mars 12288, I came across the actual replacement for this unit, but it was around $40, so I opted for option 2, which is to buy a replacement unit from a different brand that just happens to be less expensive. In this case, I was able to identify 3 key parts to the capacitor that really mattered in making sure that this was going to be a suitable replacement. The first key specification is the microfarad. Again, we're not going to go into details of what all this means, but just helping to identify what you'll need to make sure you order in the replacement unit. In this case, the old unit had 45 plus 5 and the new unit had 45-5, and then you see the little UF symbol. Make sure that those match up with the old and with the new. The next specification is the tolerance level, in this case plus or minus 6%, and you'll see in both of these images that matched up between these two units. Last but not least is the voltage capacity. In this case, the old unit had 440 VAC, so you want to make sure that the new unit has at least that amount. If the old unit had 440 and you replaced it with the 370, that would be a problem. So you want to make sure you at least match with the same number as before. With those three specs, I was able to find a unit on Amazon, which I'll put a link in the video description below, where you'll be able to go to the category and look at capacitors. But ultimately, I was able to find one for just under $20, and it arrived the next day. To ensure safety when handling old or new capacitors, it's recommended to discharge them, and you do that by getting an insulated screwdriver or something similar, and touching multiple terminals at the same time, kind of going back and forth. You can even kind of scratch them across each other, but if there is a charge built up, that will release and then they will be safe to handle. The next step is to remove the old unit, and that will often have a bracket that requires disconnecting so you have access. You'll have wires likely going to 3 different areas of your capacitor, one being the HERM, one being the C, and one being the fan. Our old unit was a little crusty, so we had to scratch to be able to find out which one was which. Okay, so that is a C, that is fan, and that's HERM. There are multiple ways you can go about replacing the capacitor. You could take a picture and note which colored wires are going to which of the 3 different spaces, or you can do what we did, which was simply to pull off one wire specifically and put it back in the same location on the new unit, and we just kind of transferred one wire at a time from the old to the new. Tip here, because there could be still some issue with the wiring of the system by the original installer in case they're still current even though you disconnected power to the unit. If you use a insulated handle plier or just some other type of device to help remove the wires, and then just do not touch any of the connection points, you can pretty much go about doing the whole entire job of replacing the wires from the old unit to the new without touching anything that would actually get you shocked. Again, it's just another safety measure just to ensure that you don't get some pretty significant voltage. With the new unit installed, it's now time to test it out. Restore power and fire up the air conditioner and see if that fixed your problem. In our case, that was exactly what did it, in really just a few minutes of time. After placing the capacitor back in its brace, we recommend writing with a Sharpie marker the date of the installation, so you'll be able to look back in the future at how long the capacitor lasted. At this point, all that's left to do is go ahead and replace all the panels and bring the unit back to its original condition by putting it back together. Wanted to share a couple thoughts before closing out the video. One thing that came to mind throughout this project was if this problem did not get fixed by swapping out the capacitor, worst case scenario, assuming that you didn't ruin your air conditioning unit in the process, worst case scenario is really that you just have an extra capacitor for when it does fail. You know, if it doesn't fix the problem, at least you have one and you won't have to wait for one to arrive in the mail. Second is, while we didn't dive into any real level of detail on what the different specifications and details, how the parts work, mainly because I'm far from knowledgeable in this subject, but we will be linking in the description a variety of really good videos that go into a lot of detail in case you do want to spend a lot of time and get a good understanding of what all these parts do and what microfarads are and all these different details. So if you want to learn, there's definitely a lot of resources out there. Last but not least, you just really do need to weigh the pros and cons before you start doing this type of work. You know, if I felt less confident in my abilities and my unit was only 3 or 4 years old, you know, it'd be something I probably would hire a professional to come out and do. But, you know, again, where the system is almost 20 years old, my thought was, worst case scenario is I mess something up and just have to buy a new one, which again would be several $1,000s, but the thought was, after doing a lot of research and investing, you know, just $20 in the new capacitor, I was able to get it up and running. So again, everyone's situation is going to be different. I'm definitely not responsible for any mistakes or screw-ups that you make. You know, this video is just more just to kind of depict and show what we did to get our air conditioner up and running for a really small amount of time and a small amount of money. So weigh your situation out and make the right choice for you. If you found this video helpful, check out our channel for other similar videos of projects around the home where you can save money by doing it yourself. And if you enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe so you won't miss out on future content.